So at 56 hours, you are in championship mode. This isn't the middle game anymore. It's not the grind anymore. This is the fourth quarter, where your body shifts from switching fuels to deep repair and precision execution. Tonight, I'd like to show you what's happening now, how to protect your finish, and how to add a simple 2-minute drill to carry you to the whistle. Hey, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. If you're new to me, go ahead and drop a new in the comments. That E stands for endocrinology. Here I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, go to the next level, create the life you've always wanted. And we are living, that's right, we're living limitless lives. Wherever you're joining us from, we want to welcome you. If you are on Twitch, if you are on LinkedIn, if you are on Facebook, and of course, if you're here on YouTube, welcome to the show. Special shout out to those of you who, if you're joining us because you saw our content on in your doctor's office, if you saw it at your church, in your community center, wherever you're coming from, thank you for coming through and hanging out with us. A special shout out to our Atlanta Berean Church in Atlanta, Georgia, and Riverside Chapel in Nashville, Tennessee. Thank you guys for joining us, and thank you for being a part of our community. We'll hop over and we'll say hi to some of our other community members that I see out there right now. In a minute. Wherever you're joining us from, go ahead and drop that in the comments. I know we've got folks who watch us from New Zealand. We've got some folks who are watching from Korea, North Korea. We've got some folks from England. We've got some folks who are out west in California. Of course, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, here in Huntsville, or let me just say Alabama. Folks who are watching from Tennessee. We've got Nebraska, we've got Florida, we've got Massachusetts. So anyway, so wherever you're from, go ahead and drop in the comments because we want to make sure that we give a shout out to you, let you know that we're excited that you're here. And that we want to make sure that we are including you in our community discussion. If you are new, if you have questions, go ahead and put those in the chat, in the comments. Make sure you put a Q in front of the question so we'll know that's a question we want to get to as we move through the course of our show. And if you are new, just go ahead and drop new in the comments. All right, go ahead and drop new in the comments because we want to give you a shout out with a hand clap and some music. And let you know that we are glad and that we are excited that you're here. And we're going to take a look at some things here in just a minute. I've got my monitors that's off to the side. I'm going to take a look at what's going on with my Keto Mojo, looking at my ketones, my contour monitor. Of course, down below me, that is the Dexcom Clarity Report, which we'll take a look at to see what's going on with those blood sugars as well. But just a quick note for those of you who are joining us for the first time. If you've been gone for a while, you're coming back, or those of you who've just been following us, you'll notice that we've had some changes on the YouTube channel, some changes on the website, and just wanted to highlight that for you. As you are coming through and looking at the channel, we want things to be streamlined. We want you to be able to just jump in and get started right away. And so what we've done is we've made some changes to the YouTube channel and taken down a lot of the videos that you were seeing there before. Now they're still on the channel, so they've not gone, but we just moved them off of that main page so that when you show up on the channel, you can jump in right away. So the first thing that you will notice when you get there is now there are two playlists. There are only two playlists that you will see on the main page. One says Start Here, Reverse Diabetes and Reclaim Your Health with Dr. Dwain Woode. And this is a list of videos. These are curated videos that we've said, hey, these are the videos. If you follow these videos, you are actually following the path that we've been on, the journey that we've been on as a community. So you want to jump in and say, how do I get started right away? People have asked me, hey, if I want to do what you're doing, if I want to do what the community is doing, this is where you would start. So start here. If you're pointing people to the channel, if you're pointing people to our content, tell them, hey, when you get to the channel, go and just start through the videos in the Start Here playlist. In the description of this, there is a PDF that you can download. The PDF is designed to walk you through, and it's right there, download free PDF, designed to walk you through the videos, help you to understand what you should be learning. There's some prompts that you'll go through, and at the end, this is important, at the end of that PDF that you download, there is a commitment statement. It's called the Limitless Living Commitment Statement. It says, hey, I am willing to do what I need to do for my health. There's some other things that you'll read through there. You'll sign it, date it, and I recommend that you print it out, put it on the wall, put it in a frame, somewhere where you can see it each time, each day, that reminds you of the things that we're doing as in our health, okay? So that's there. The other thing that you will see, and let me back up, the other playlist that you will see is the one that's called This Week's Videos. So if you want to know what the discussions are for this week, if you want to know what the conversations have been, what did I eat for my last meal before I start my fast? Hey, what is he going to eat for the first meal after his fast? What's going on with strength, strategy, and mindset? All of those. What is he doing with the pop-ups? All the videos for this week will show up in this list, and you can just jump in. And yeah, that's me right there. We were on vacation. I was at the condo, and we did one of our exercise, and that's me on the beach, right? And here is our flagship show that we did this week. That's pop-up live, so you can get to see what I ate for the first time or for my last meal before I got into the fast. So all of that is there, designed to help you jump in and be able to see what's going on with the channel. On our website, we've also replicated the same idea, and we've simplified that. So if you go to DwainWoodeMD.com, I love this visual that's there when you first get to the page. Notice what it says: reclaim your rhythm, redefine your life. Welcome to Limitless Living, transforming health, mindset, and identity one intentional step at a time. And this shows this guy standing on the mountain and realizing the limitless potential that he has. Right? So just a wonderful idea of standing and looking out at our lives now and saying, hey, I don't have to keep staying where I am. All of this is open to me now. So wonderful idea there. There's a welcome video that you'll see there from me. Welcome you to the website. And down here, once again, these are the same things that we just talked about. Here you'll see a start watching videos that shows you how to get to the videos, the playlist that we just said, and then of course download your free guide here on the other side. Okay, so just wanted to point that out, some things that are going on the channel. Let's go ahead and let's hop over. Let's take a look at some blood sugar, see what's been going on with me. First, let's take a look at this is my Freestyle Libre. And you'll see right there, my blood sugar right now is a 61. If you look down right about here, you'll see the graph that's been going on today. So the early part of the day, the white part means that my blood sugar was above 70. And then the red part means that it was below 70. So if I put my finger on that, so that was about 12 hours, so 9 a.m. this morning. And 9 a.m. it was 80, and then came down. And then right about, let's see, what time is that? Right about 12 noon-ish, it dropped below 70, and it's been there for the rest of the evening, okay? So that's what the Freestyle Libre says. If I go over here and look at these reports, time and range, let's go to 90 days. So I'm in range 87% of the time. The additional 13% that you see where it's not showing, that's because my blood sugar is low, and that's typically when I'm fasting. Like right now, this number that you saw earlier, well, let me go back there. So this number is contributing to that 13% that you saw where it was low. And then if I look at my average for the last 90 days, you see right up in here, my average is 89. And then what I love about this is it breaks my average up into the day, so you can see what the blood sugars have been running at particular times of the day. So that I really like that. If I go to the last week, right, so 92 average, and then down here we've been in the upper 80s, anywhere from 87 to 97, so about 10 point spread right there. Okay, now let's go ahead and let's see what my Dexcom is showing. This is a G7, and you see the Dexcom says that my blood sugar right now is an 83. And similarly, if I go and I put my finger and I can run it across the day, this is a 24-hour period, so my blood sugar has been ranging in the 80s, 90s, up to 103 right there in the morning. That's right about 7 o'clock. And I attribute that to toothpaste, by the way. So here's a one, actually got up to 110, and then started coming back down. And then you start to see similar numbers like we're seeing with the Freestyle Libre down to 70s. Now this one did not dip below 70, and as you know, the Dexcom tends to be a little higher than the Libre for my blood sugars. Okay, so now here's an interesting thing, because there are people who, when they're using the Dexcom and the Libre, we put them on in the office, and the Libre tends to be lower, but there are some people, for whatever reason, theirs actually tends to be higher. But for the most part, it shows a lower number. Now let's go ahead and let's take a look at what's going on with my blood sugars according to my monitors. And for this, we grab my container. We need a blue strip for ketones, and we need a brown strip for blood sugar. And if you think you know what my ketones are, go ahead and drop a comment, drop a guess into the chat. We get some Lancets, and then I need some strips for the contour. So let's go ahead and get that out. Go ahead and drop that into the comments. What do you think my ketones are going to be? And here we are at 56 hours into this week's fast. And let's go ahead, we're going to open up. This is the strip for blood sugar, or for the Keto Mojo. It would be nice if all the strips just work on all the meters, wouldn't it? And then here is, but that would be too easy. That would be too like right. And I'm going to open this one and just leave that off to the side. So this is going to be for my ketones. All right. So now let's grab one of our Lancets. And as you know, I don't use a Lansing device. I just grab the Lancet, open that up, and then grab get a finger, and let's do a stick. Ow, 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 ow. That actually hurt a little bit more than I expected, but that's okay. And so that gives me a pretty brisk drop. Get that started. Get this started for the contour. Okay. And while we do that, let me back up a little bit so we can look at this view. And so here we are. So 65 for the Keto Mojo, 66 for the contour. Right now, the Dexcom says I'm 83. And if I go back to the Freestyle, you'll see Freestyle says 61. So 61, 65, 66, and then, of course, the Dexcom is showing higher at 83. I'm going to go ahead and take this strip out and get the one for the ketones in. There we are. And then let's make sure that this drop of blood doesn't dry. Let's go ahead and get that started. Okay, so I think we got it in time. All right. There we go. And so drum roll, please. Drum roll, drum roll, drum roll. And 3, 2, 1. And 1.4. 1.4 is what my ketones are. So let's go ahead and I'm going to get over to my Keto Mojo. And let's go ahead and sync that so we can have a little conversation about that. So error, that's not what we want. We want you to pull it in. So when we talk about ketones, so ketones that are less than 0.5 are considered normal. 0.5 to 1.5 considered nutritional ketosis, and then above 1.5 considered therapeutic ketosis. And so right now I'm in the nutritional ketosis phase. So that's 1.4. So just shy of being into the therapeutic ketosis range. And yesterday, if you listened to our discussion as we talked about ketones, one of the points I made, and while this is syncing, let me go ahead and come here and make that point. One of the points I made is that we want, when we're fasting, when we're doing a fasting mimicking diet, when we are doing a ketogenic diet, we want ketones that are 0.5 or higher, right? Because that means that we're in the fat burning part of our fast or meals or whatever we're doing. So we want it to be 0.5 or higher. 0.5 or higher to 1.5 considered therapeutic or nutritional ketosis. when you heard me talk about the therapeutic part, I usually say above 1.5. Well, there is an upper limit, if you will, to that. So 1.5, above 1.5 to about 5.5, 6 is what we say. Hey, we want that to be the range that we try to stay in. When we get higher than that, if our blood sugar is also low, then we've got to be cautious, because a lot of times, if we're not paying attention to hydration, paying attention to our electrolytes, paying attention to what our body is telling us at the time, then we kind of ignore signals. So whether we're having palpitations, headaches, visual changes, whether we're lightheaded, dizzy. So you want to make sure that you are continuing to pay attention to your body when it's telling you, when it's giving those signals, okay? So as you get to ketones that are higher, we want higher ketones, but we want ketones that are safe as well. Okay? So if we're not staying hydrated, if we're not doing good with our electrolytes, if we're not resting, and all the things we talk about, and come back tomorrow as we get into our complete fasting review, we'll talk more about some of those types of things. Okay? So our Keto Mojo app has finished, and let's get back in there. And so here we are. So looking at these three numbers, so the big number, that's my GKI, or glucose keto index, or GKI, glucose-keto index. And it is a ratio of the numbers that I have down below, which is glucose, 65, and ketones, 1.4. Now, if you're looking at those numbers, you're saying, wait a minute, that doesn't sound like 2.5 if I divide 65 by 1.4, and it's a calculation. So let's go ahead and let's do that calculation. I'm going to pull my calculator up. So I got to remember 65 and 1.4, 65 and 1.4. So let's get the calculator. Well, I thought I had my calculator up. Let me go ahead and pull that up here. 65 and 1.4. 65, 1.4, 65, 1.4. Here we go. All right. So, did I say 65? Yeah, 65. So I take 65, and in order to convert that into international units, I divide it by 18, and that gives me a number. And now I can divide this number by 1.4, and that gives me that 2.5 that we saw right here. Okay? So for those of you who are outside of the United States, when you talk about, and sometimes this confuses people, when someone who is not using milligrams to deciliter, which is what we use here in the US, when they talk about blood sugars, you hear them say, hey, my blood sugar was 3 or 5 or 10 or some number like that. And people are like, what? How can it be that low? Well, it's because they're not using milligrams per deciliter. In fact, let me go back to our calculator, and let's do one of those really quickly. So if someone says that their blood sugar is a 5, what we really need to do, if outside of the United States, we multiply that by 18, and that tells us what their blood sugar is. It's actually a 90. If they say their blood sugar is a 10, right? Multiply that by 18, and that says the blood sugar is actually 180. So you'll see, so sometimes you'll hear people talk about numbers that don't seem to make sense to us, and it's because they're using the international units. Not that their blood sugars are actually as low as we think when we talk about the numbers that we use, okay? All right, so now let's go look at this back here. And so once again, when we look at these numbers, we want the GKI to be low, and we want the glucose to be low, and we want ketones to be high. And that's what you're seeing there. Let's see, if I go back, let's see, where are we? Readings. Okay, let's go back to readings, and let's take a look at a GKI. Let's take a look at this one, actually, yeah. So that's a high GKI, right? So this was a time when I wasn't fasting. So notice the ketones are in the normal range, so less than 0.5. The glucose is 83. Now people look at the glucose of 83 and say, wait a minute, what? That's not high. Why wouldn't you have higher ketones? Well, the interesting conversation, and we got to come back and do a show on this. Just this concept alone. So if your blood sugar is 100, and we're using 100 because it's easier for the math. So 99, 70 to 99 is considered normal. That's a normal blood sugar. Okay, so we're going to just round it up to 100 to make the math easy. If your blood sugar is 100, and I took all the sugar that's in your body and I, concentrated it, then that would equal to 4 grams of sugar. So 100 blood sugar, 4 grams of sugar, which is equal to 1 teaspoon. I want you to get that concept. So in your body is able to function on 100 blood sugar, which is equal to 4 grams, which is equal to 1 teaspoon. That's 1 teaspoon. So when my blood sugar is 88, there's no reason for my body to drop the insulin because it's still in the normal range. When my blood sugar drops below 70, that's considered low blood sugar. And that's when the body says, hey, I need to stop producing insulin. But as long as it's 70 or above, my body is still producing insulin. And so ketones can potentially be below normal, in the normal range. So not in the nutritional or the therapeutic range. That's an interesting concept also, because if you get a package of your favorite food, your favorite beverage, and you look at the back and you look at the nutritional information, it will say that thing that you're drinking, that thing that you're eating, has 15 grams of carbs, which equates to 15 grams of sugar. And if I take 15 and divide it by 4, we said 4, right? So 15. So it goes into there 3 times. So you are essentially, in that thing, eating and or drinking 3 teaspoons of sugar. If you take your favorite can of beverage and you look at it, it will have 45 grams of carbs. 45 grams of sugar, actually. It's not even, don't even carbs, because everything that's in there is sugar. So 45, right? And you can see that 45 divided by 4 is what? Yeah, so we're talking about 10-ish. We're going to just round down. We're talking about 10 grams of, or 10 teaspoons of sugar that's in that, just that can. And we just said that our entire body, if my blood sugar is 100, which is normal, right, a lot higher than normal. So I keep saying 99 because I want you to get, so when I say 99 is normal, we're just rounding up to 100 to make the math easy. So if 100 is what your body normally has, and you're drinking a can of something that has 10 times the amount, now we begin to understand how sometimes the body goes awry, okay? All right, that was a long discussion for that, but I wanted to make sure that we made that point as we look at some of these numbers. Now let's go back to this and go back to where we are. Let's see, where were we? Get rid of this, and we're looking at graphs. And a point to be made here is you'll see the turquoise, the dashed line. That is those are my ketones. And then the tan line that's kind of going downward, those are blood sugars. And notice, as my blood sugar has gone lower, then my ketones go up. And that's an important point for our fasting, for our ketosis when you're trying to get to ketogenic diet, for our fasting mimicking diets. The important point there is that if the insulin is high, then my body does not go into fat burning. Remember, insulin prevents us from getting into beta oxidation, fat oxidation. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a minute as we get into our discussion for tonight. So when we talk about how the food that we eat prior to a fast affects us in the fast, what we're saying is, if you come into the fast with blood sugars that are high, it takes a while for the body to burn the sugar so that the insulin gets low enough so that you can begin burning fat. So sometimes people will get into a fast and they're like, well, nothing happened. Well, nothing happened. Something did happen, but they don't see the benefit because the body actually was spending most of this time trying to get rid of the sugar. And so we never got into fat burning, so the weight did not change because it never got to the point where it was burning the fat. Okay, so once again, come by when we do our full review of fasting, and we'll talk more about that. All right, so let's go over here and look at this is my Dexcom Clarity report. And you'll see for 14 days, my average blood sugar has been 113. We usually tell people we want their blood sugar to be between 100 and 120. And so that's right in keeping with what that should be. Time in target is 99%. And that 1 that you see there is because it was low, so it doesn't show up as in range. The range is anywhere from 70 to 180, a whole nother conversation to be had there. And then my GMI. So we talked about the GKI a minute ago, which is a ratio of your glucose to ketones. This GMI is my glucose management indicator. Now, this one is important to people because it should be an approximation of what your A1C should be. So if you're using a glucose monitor and you're looking at this number, then, continuous glucose monitor, let me say that, and you're looking at this number, then when you go to get your blood work, you would expect it to be close to whatever this number is. And if you remember a couple of weeks ago, I actually went through my personal lab results that I had when I went to see my doctor, and we reviewed those. That would be a good show for you guys to go back and watch. Anybody who's out there, if you can find that and just drop it in the comments, so for me, that would be great. Okay? All right, so now if I look at my 90-day average, 114, so not far off from what we just had. I'm in target 98% of the time, target still being the same, and then my glucose management indicator is a 6.0, so that's what I would anticipate that my sugar would be, or my A1C. Now let's go ahead and look at blood sugars over the course of our fasting. And I love doing this because I want you to see what happens to blood sugar as we get into the fast based on what we ate. And so let's start right about it. So here was where we were fasting, about 115, 116-ish, blood sugar wise. And let's see, so I had a salad. I had some kale salad. Well, we had regular salad stuff. So tomatoes, cucumber, had some cheese in there. What else? We had some sunflower seeds. And then I had a kale salad that came from one of our local restaurants here. As you heard me mention in that conversation, that it has a little bit of a, whatever the dressing was a little sweet. Okay, so we'll see what happens to blood sugar as a result. And then I had a hamburger patty with a slice of cheddar cheese and a slice of pepper jack cheese on it. So that was what I had as my last meal prior to the fast. So now let's take a look at blood sugars and see what happens. So started the fast right here, and my blood sugars, 120s, 127 so far is the highest that I saw. And we're moving now, we're about an hour later. Here's 2 hours later, 125. Coming now about 3 hours, 132, 138, the highest that we've seen so far, and 136, and then started coming back down. So now we're about 5 hours out from starting that fast, that meal. And 113, 120s, 109s. And so that's midnight. And then going into, let's get rid of this thing, and going into the next morning, right, starting 106, dropping down into the 80s and 90s. And then right in here is what I usually call my toothpaste effect, because there's sugar in the toothpaste. So here you see my blood sugar spiked up. It went from 105 up to 143. Look at that. Like, that was a big spike. And then for the rest of the day, continue going down, 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 down. And by the end of this day, if I recall correctly, we actually went down into the 80s, right? And so when we were doing the show, we were in the 80s at the time, right? And so going to midnight, which was last night, and so 80s, 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 there's 90s, dropped down to the 70s, right about there, and then coming into the morning, and here we have that crazy toothpaste effect again. And notice what 90s, 90s, 90s. So we got up this morning to as high as 110, 119 so far. But one point that I want to make sure that you're getting is that when we're fasting, that last meal that we have, we want that meal to not cause significant spikes in the blood sugar. And so now this is where we are. We're in the 90s, dropping down into the 80s. We dipped down to we did go below 69 according to the Dexcom here. And then back into this evening. And right here is when I was working out with my son. right in there. Notice that spike, and that's an interesting one. Exercise physiology when it comes to blood sugars and ketones are interesting as well. And then down into the 70s, 80s, 90s, and that's where we are right now. Okay. Now I know we took a little while to get here, but I wanted to have those conversations earlier on when we talked about ketones and what that meant and so forth. So now let's go ahead and let's say hello to our community members. I see you guys out there, so let's go back to the top here and first of all, let's say hi to David Hunt. What's up, my man? Thank you for coming through. David Hunt. Let's see. Let's grab this. Here we go. Okay. Yeah. So David Hunt, thank you for coming through. If you've not been to David's channel, a tremendous musician, lots of inspirational things. So get over there and just join and hang out with him for a little while. Gian says, hi, doctor. Hey, Gian, thank you for coming through. And then howdy, David. Hey, hi, LLG. There you go. Hey, that's us. That's us. David saying hi to Gian. Gian says she's from South Korea. Gian said 43-year-old. Okay. Jennifer, hey Gian and hey David. Hi Jennifer. Gian, how is your garden? So talking to Jennifer, so green. I want to see it someday. Yeah, we all need to take a trip out to Jennifer's. Jennifer's from Nebraska. David's from Massachusetts. So we got South Korea, we got Nebraska, we got Massachusetts. Gian said, Doctor, I'm from South Korea. Yes. Let's see. If it is 11 a.m. is what Gian is saying. Oh, let me go back here for a minute. Hello, Jennifer from Nebraska. It's 11 a.m. on Friday where she is. David says new, not new. Jennifer says 9 p.m. Thursday. I am 14 hours ahead of you, Jennifer. You had futuristic superpowers. Hello, folks. What's up, Steve? And Steve is here in lovely Gunter Mountain in Alabama. Gunter. Hello, folks. I can be found atop the lovely Gunter Mountain. Gion says thank you. Hi, Steve. Jennifer saying hi, Steve, or way up high, Steve. Right, there you go. Yeah, Jennifer, you're kind of high too, aren't you? Steve saying hello, ladies. I would like to see that, Steve. Jennifer says only cucumbers, tomatoes from the garden, but planted fall garden, broccoli, carrots, cauliflower, radishes, greens, zucchini, peas, green beans. Oh, but Jennifer, come on, you're making us hungry. You're making us hungry. Gian is guessing 2.4, so it was actually 1.4. Says, wow, great, Jennifer. Jennifer says, stopped by the grocery store last week and nearly had a stroke at the prices. I shop when we need paper goods. Come home and cleared out the summer crops. Some more room for the fall crops. I love it. Same here. Jennifer, Cornelia, what's up? Cornelia says hi, Gian, Jennifer, and everybody. Hi, Cornelia. Hey, Cornelia. Cornelia's just waving. Okay, hi, David. Let's see, SI equal FS equal, I'm not sure what that, I think that got confused there. And hello to Steve. All right. So glad that you guys are all here. Glad that everybody's here, all the places that you're from. Let's go ahead and let's get into our discussion for this evening. Very important one. I love this one that we're going to have right here. So hang on. Here we go. All right, so we've been talking about this idea of finishing strong, right? So the finishing strong, what does that mean? That means that we are committed to seeing what we're doing through to the end. We introduced that at our show on Monday. Seeing what's going on. How do we get to the place where our default the default behavior, the default thoughts, the default actions that we have are in line with where we want to go. One of my favorite things to do is I get to hang out with my son, who's an amazing young man, loves basketball. And so we've been traveling and we've been catching different ball games. So we were trying to get all the teams and we see all the teams play at home, right? We got a couple of years before we get that, before he gets to, we were supposed to be doing this before he got to college, but that's a whole nother conversation. So anyway, so when we go to watch a game, and you've seen games, or even you've watched any sport, the fourth quarter is the time when the teams dig in. In fact, the fourth quarter is where amazing things can happen. The fourth quarter is where the technical things that you were doing in the game, where they begin to pay off. The fourth quarter is where the motivation from the coach, or the motivation from the stands, from the fans that are in the stand, this is where things begin to click. The fourth quarter is where leaders are made, because the fourth quarter, sometimes somebody steps up and leads the team to victory. The fourth quarter is that buzzer beater last shot that Michael Jordan made. You remember that game where he's on the sidelines, basically sick, right? I think he had the flu at the time, and they're pumping fluids into him, and he gets up in the fourth quarter, and he makes that buzzer beater three-pointer and wins the game. This is the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter is where those amazing things begin happening. And the fourth quarter is where we find ourselves right now as we are in our fast. So what is uniquely happening in the fourth quarter? So by 56 hours, and we're talking about here, by 56 hours, fat oxidation is dominant. We just talked about going into ketosis and how insulin, if the insulin is high, it prevents us from getting there. But at this point, when blood sugars are low, when blood sugars are as low as they are, and let me pop over there so you can see what that is. So right now, my blood sugar, according to my Freestyle Libre, is 62. When blood sugars are that low, then ketones are high because the insulin actually has decreased. And remember, insulin and ketones can't be in the same space for long. I tell people it's kind of like matter and antimatter. They can't be in the same space. Or I'm a sci-fi person. So when I watch the sci-fi movie, they say, hey, if you go back in time, don't interact with yourself because you guys can't be in the same space. So by 56 hours, fat oxidation is dominant. It's not just coming online. Lipolysis is steady. It is happening. Free fatty acids are supplying muscles with ketones and the brain with the preferred fuel. So the brain prefers ketones. That's happening at 56 hours. Insulin suppression is maximal. So insulin is as low as it's going to be. That's why continuing now amplifies the repair. mTOR, which is one of those hormones, one of those substances in the body that are helping our cells to build, right? So cells are building and they're cleaning, they're switching, right? They're cleaning, repair. Building versus cleaning. Cleaning versus repair. Autophagy is happening. Autophagy is the body's cellular cleanup process. At 33 hours, it's rising. At 56 hours, it's doing some real work. So recycling dysfunctional proteins, organelles, those are those things that's in the cells, and immune debris. This is where people begin talking about the benefits that we get from fasting on cognition. Remember, type 3 diabetes, that term, we did a show on that. Type 3 diabetes is this idea that insulin resistance and high blood sugars are causing damage and are leading to dementia, cognitive problems, neurodegenerative problems when it comes to nerves. Growth hormone at 56 hours is elevated compared to when we are fed. This supports our lean mass preservation. So people talk about losing muscles. Well, if we're fasting, the growth hormone levels are actually high. This is not the starvation. This is fasting. This is not, hey, I'm going to cut back. When we cut back, the body also cuts back on its metabolism. But when we're fasting, the body says, I know I'm not getting anything at all, so I'm not cutting back. I'm going to go find energy somewhere. I want you to get the distinction there. And that's an important point to be made as you understanding. When you say, okay, I'm going to cut back on food, which is what most times we think. Hey, if I cut back on the food, I'm going to lose weight. Well, when you cut back on the food, the body says, they're going to give me some food in a little while. So all I need to do right now is I need to just decrease my metabolism until I get food again. You got that so far? Now, let's compare that to when we fast. When we fast, what the body says is, hey, it's been 18 hours. It's been 24 hours. It's been 36 hours. And it doesn't look like they're going to give me any food. So let me go find some energy somewhere. And now it begins to tap into the stored energy, which is the fat cells. And it says, hey, I need to rev up my growth hormone to protect the muscles that are here. When we decrease our calories, then what happens is the muscle mass goes down if we're not careful. When we fast, the muscle mass goes up because the growth hormone goes up. Inflammatory signal is generally quieter. And a lot of people notice that joint discomfort and skin problems, right? All those inflammatory things that you have. You've got rheumatoid arthritis, you've got psoriasis. All of those things get better because, why? Because the inflammatory signals have decreased. So key thought that I want you to get here. At 33 hours, you enter this arena. But at 56 hours, you're running your best place. all those things that you've been practicing, oh yeah, it's happening right now. So when we talk about the fast, we talk about how we finish, when we finish strong, finishing strong, the body is set up for this. This is what's uniquely happening at 56 hours. And so now, what's going on in our brain and our nervous system? Brain and nervous system. Quiet power. So late stage fasting often feels different mentally. A couple of weeks ago, we were doing a check-in, if you guys recall. I was doing a check-in, and I was talking about the fact that it was almost like I was on this euphoric, I don't know what I was on. But we had been fasting, and that was right at about our 72-hour, 71-hour fasting time. But at this point, the ketones, the available ketones, it's a smooth transition. And those ketones continue to come. We get less jittery, we get calmer, concentration is better. Why? Because we're not using the fluctuating blood sugar, which is a very volatile energy source. Ketones are constant now. And I know I talk about sci-fi all the time, but one of the things that I love is the Marvel movies. And I liken this to Tony Stark, Iron Man, when he takes the old arc reactor out and he puts the new one in and he screws it in and it's like, right? He gets that energy. So that's now a constant source of energy. That's now a cleaner, less volatile, less fluctuating source of energy. And that's what happens when we get into the space where we have beta oxidation and our body is fully now connected to ketones. Catecholamines adapt. You are alert without feeling wired. What does that mean? When we first start fasting, the body actually sees that as a stress. This is a good conversation right here. This is why when we talk about fasting and we talk about what it does inside the body, people say, well, won't I be sluggish? Won't I feel tired? Won't I feel drained? Okay? So I want you to get those questions that people are asking. Well, have you ever watched, like, on one of these nature shows, and you see a tiger, a lion, or one of those animals, and they haven't eaten in a long time? Sometimes, they go for days, it's a week without eating. Are they sluggish? Are they just kind of laying around? No, they're heightened, right? That adrenaline is pumping. Why is it pumping? Because the body does that automatically. The body gets you ready to tap into the source of energy that's stored. And you don't feel jittery, you don't feel wired like when you're nervous, right? Because remember, catecholamines and those stress hormones, when those come out, normally you feel, oh, I'm anxious about something. Well, in this space, when we're fasting, the body produces those hormones, but they don't cause the same jittery feeling. They help you become more focused, more alert. This is happening at 56 hours. Sleep pressure can change. Some people get lighter sleep, right? Counter with deliberate winding down is what we want to do, right? And we want to get some electrolytes. You've heard me say that one of the things that we want to make sure is that we are remaining hydrated, that we're making sure that we have good electrolytes in place. And a lot of people describe a kind of quiet, calm, quiet energy, not hype. Their head, their minds, the connections that they're making become incredible. And in fact, we've been talking in our community when we do our after the show, we've been talking about the benefits that we get and the connections that we're making. It's amazing. So we don't want to chase the hype. We want to pilot the quiet that's going on during this time. So what does that feel like? What's happening at 56 hours? Okay. The brain, the nervous system, this is all kicking in and doing for us giving us a lot of benefits that we would not normally get. And then let's talk about some safety signals and some guardrails. Safety signals and some guardrails. So champions finish safely. Here are some red flags to respect. So sympathetic or symptomatic hypotension. What does that mean? So when the blood sugar or when the volume in the body drops, we get lightheaded, we get dizzy when we're standing up. Persistent palpitations. That can happen. When we are going through the fast, and that's why we talk about how to get into the fast, how to get through the fast successfully, and how to end the fast. When we're going through the fast, we want to make sure that we're hydrated. If we're not hydrated well, then that can show up in ways that cause us to have symptoms, and then we think it's a fasting issue, but it's not a fasting issue. It's a preparation, getting into the fast issue. Okay? So number one, symptomatic hypotension. That is lightheaded, dizzy, sweaty. How about looking at your continuous glucose monitor? Now, I look at mine, and I am aware of when it is dropping, and I keep it very much close to my mind as I'm looking at those numbers. And sometimes in the office, I'll show somebody my number and say, oh my goodness, your blood sugar is 69. Or your blood sugar is, in this case, is 63. I'm looking at the monitor right now. I'm looking at 63, and I'm mindful of the fact that, yes, it's 63, but I'm also mindful of the fact that I have ketones. So if I've got those ketones, then the 63 is not a problematic number because the body is now using ketones for energy. And you've heard me talk about before about making sure that we're staying safe as those ketones get higher and higher and higher. So watching your CGM, and that's why I recommend that everybody do what? That they monitor blood sugar. If we're going to finish strong, we want to finish safely as well. So electrolytes. So if we're not doing a good job of electrolytes, we can have cramps, headaches, brain fog, right? I want you to think, when you think of electrolytes, you're thinking sodium, potassium, magnesium. And you want to make sure that you're doing that before you assume, well, fasting isn't for me. If you're on insulin, if you're on any medication that causes your body to produce insulin, like the sulfonylureas, we may need to adjust those down so that you can fast without having issues. Because the medication doesn't know you're fasting. And the medication's job is what? The medication's job is to continue to lower your blood sugar. So if I'm already lowering my blood sugar by fasting, yay, that's the way we want to do it, and the medication is on board and the medication is also lowering my blood sugar, then I can run into trouble. Not because fasting is a problem, but because the medication has not been adjusted. So you want to make sure that you're talking to your healthcare provider as you're getting through this, right? Because we're finishing strong. We are making sure that we're setting everything in place so that we can hit this hard, so that we can get the benefit that we want and the benefit that we're expecting. So finishing strong means finishing smart as well, right? So not just, hey, I'm just going to plow through. Several weeks ago, actually more than several weeks, several months ago, I gave you the story of me going out and setting up tents. We were taking some of our kids camping, and didn't do a good job of hydrating during that time. And so I was putting these stakes down in the tent, and I stood up, and it was like things went black or dark. They didn't go black, went dark. And everybody had gone to do different tasks. And so I was out there in the field by myself, and I stood up for a minute. I was like, okay, how am I going to get from here? Because my car was off in the distance. And I kind of balanced myself, sat down, took my time, and felt a little better, and then made my way to that location and was able to get some hydration. Right? So we want to make sure that we're smart as we do this. When we're fasting, we're not eating. People also tend not to think about drinking, which is why you see me. I'm always drinking something here. And in my office, I'll go to my office when I'm in my practice. I'll go to the office periodically and get something to drink, because I know that if I don't do that, then I'm going to be dehydrated, and that does not bode well. Okay, so we want to make sure that we are monitoring. We're looking at those safety signals that help us to do what we need to do and make sure that we are safe. Okay, all right. So now let's talk about some champion levers. Right? So here are some late phase levers that we can use. Ready? And they not only matter now, but they matter a lot now. So, and we just talked about some of them. So electrolytes, right? So small hits across the day as you're going through your fasting. Right? Making sure that you're drinking fluids, but if you're doing one of the extended fasts, we also need to make sure that we're getting some electrolytes in. And there are lots of electrolyte formulations that you can use. You want to make sure that you're using one that doesn't have a lot of sugar. Several months ago now, I went to the grocery store and I grabbed some electrolytes, and I saw 0 on it. Yeah, I didn't read. I said 0 on it, and I said, okay, this is going to be good. So I grabbed it, came home, and all of a sudden my blood sugar started going up like that, right? So not only does it have sodium, potassium, and the other things, but it also has sugar in it. So you want to be careful with that, so that you don't see that response. So sodium, number 1. Potassium and magnesium, right? Supplements or mineral water, right? If you're prone to cramps, that would be one to use. Water. Right? Water follows. So electrolytes and fluids, right? We don't want to over dilute, right? But we want to make sure that we are drinking enough to make sure that we are staying in that space. And then movement. So we talk about walking and we talk about strength training. And when we talk about walking, we've talked about the zone 2 walk or gentle lifts when we're talking about strength training. So if you are not used to doing that, then this is not the time to start doing that. And in fact, unless you're doing strength training, right? Or a fasting workout, then you want to actually begin decreasing what you do when you're fasting. Like I do my fasting at a time and I work out in the fast because I'm specifically wanting those growth hormones to go up. We're doing some particular things here with me and my son. And so that is built into what I do with the fast. But if you've been watching and you say, okay, I'm going to fast and I'm just going to start exercising now while I'm fasting because, hey, that's what they're supposed to do. No, you don't want to start that now. You want to actually ease up on that because what that does is it burns the calories. Your body's not used to it yet. You want to begin working the exercise into fasting. So begin exercising, get used to that, and then if you're doing fasting workouts, then you combine those two. But if this is new to you, then you can go walking, which is great. You can do some light stretching. You can do, even when you do our strength, strategy, and mindset, the first 10 to 15 minutes of the show that we do is designed for warm-up. So you can take those warm-up exercises. You can do those as your activity, right? So we're trying to avoid this all-out session where we jump in and all of a sudden we're just going at it. Let me tell on myself. So we had several years ago, I had an elliptical and I had not been on the elliptical, had not been exercising, and I got motivated, right? And I said, you know what? I'm gonna do this. So I got on the elliptical. I spent 2 hours. Yeah, and I'm just going at it. I'm sweating, and I'm like, man, this is great for my body. And do you know what was going on the couple of days after that, and for the next week? My body's like, we're not doing this again. It's like you're out of your mind. So we want to make sure as we are incorporating the things that we want, and we're talking about finishing strong. When we're finishing strong, we want to be smart, and we want to set ourselves up for the best possibility of success. Okay, and then. So that's movement, okay? And then breathing and managing stress. Breathing and managing stress. I was talking to one of our team members actually today about the managing the stress that comes from activities that we do. If you've been watching our show, at the end of our strength, strategy, and mindset, we do a grounding exercise where we talk about breathing and imagining what our body is like and feeling the tension and the emotions draining out our body. So one of the most important things when it comes to fasting is how we deal with our emotions. And so breathing is a great way to do that. So box breathing, right? So you breathe in for 4, hold it for 4, breathe out for 4, hold it for 4, right? So basically box breathing. Or finding other methods of managing stress. When we breathe, right? When we meditate, when we do yoga, when we do devotions, all of those things have the benefit of downshifting our cortisol and helping to preserve our clarity when we're talking about finishing strong. And then finally, the finish line focus. So we're talking about things that you can do, the levers that you're pulling, right? So make sure you're having electrolytes. Make sure that you're moving and you're not like going crazy out there, that you're watching what you're doing in terms of physical activity, that you're learning to manage your stress. And then the third one is visualization. That finish line, what does that finish line look like? What's the focus? Tighten your decisions. Reduce screen time. Plan what it's going to be like for the next 6 hours, 12 hours as I'm heading to that goal. I'm 56 hours now. We're heading to 72. Whether you are doing this extended fast or you're doing a 48-hour fast, hey, you've got 12 hours left. If you're doing a 24-hour fast, you've got 12 hours left. How do we get to the end of the 12 hours without causing problems and getting to the point where we feel, okay, I'm going to give up now? Right? So when we do our review of fasting, how to prepare for the fast, how to get through the fast, and how to break the fast, we talk about all of that. So here's the thing. Late phase gains are precision, not punishment. Late phase gains are precision, not punishment. Those things that you're feeling, we've got to now begin learning again, what does this mean for my body? What does this mean for my body? What are those signals that my body is giving me? Yeah? Okay. And then let's go ahead and let's talk about a drill that we can do. 2-minute drill. And, of course, keeping the sports analogy. Love it. So when the game is tight, great teams run a drill. And here's yours, right? So when they get in the huddle, they're like, okay, what are we gonna do? Some of my favorite movies are the comeback, right? The underdog, the people who are down and they get over and they come up with a play, or the coach says, hey, this is what we're gonna do, and they run that last, right? What is the play that we're gonna run? Number one, we want to manage our mindset. So clock management, manage our mindset. Set a timer for the next milestone. Is it a sleep milestone? Is it an activity milestone? Is it an electrolyte milestone? Is it managing my stress milestone? What is the next milestone that's in your fast? You're not fasting forever. You are executing a clocked drive. What we're doing is we're saying, okay, we're going to get there. And it's kind of like, when the coach comes on and, it's the final seconds of the game, right? Fourth quarter. And they say, okay, we need to get the ball. Well, I'm not going to call one of my favorite players' name. We're going to get the ball to him. Okay, this is what we're going to do is somebody's going to inbound the ball, and I need everybody to be lined up, and then I want you to split. Because we're trying to figure out what's the play? What's the next milestone? What is the next thing that's going to happen? What is the next signal that you need? How are we going to set that up so we can get through the rest of this fast? Okay? We want to remove things that are around us that trigger us. When we're in the fast, and one of the things that I don't want to say struggle with, but one of the things that you've heard me talk about is the fact that I usually cook for my family. I usually cook on Wednesdays. Well, Wednesday is in my fast. And I'm not such a good cook yet that I can cook without tasting. And so, in fact, so I took some stuff out last night I was going to cook, and I put it back in the refrigerator because I said, okay, I can't do it tonight because I'm going to end up eating. Well, I got to cook tonight. So I'm going to do some cooking, some of the stuff, but I am going to attempt. I'm going to succeed, by the way. I'm not going to attempt. Let me stop saying attempt. So I'm going to cook without eating. So remove triggers. So there are things that I am going to have to get out of my environment. Cadbury's, chocolate. Ben & Jerry Cherry Garcia ice cream. Now, when I go out, I may have some, but I don't bring, well, I do bring Cadbury's, but Ben & Jerry's, I don't bring that to the house anymore. Or I haven't been bringing it to the house. Because I know once it's here, so remove those triggers. Set out water. Set out electrolytes. Set out things around that are easy to grab. Because if not, our brain is going to send us to the things that we don't want. And here's the thing. Why are they in the house? I'm just going to pause there after that question, because I'm asking myself that as well. We were going camping recently, and so I went to the grocery store, and I was getting some stuff to go camping. And when I got to the cash register, I noticed, right, there are a bag of chips, there are nuts, there are Cadbury. What was I doing? I was preparing to snack. Those weren't things I went for, but I'm anticipating, oh, I'm going to want a snack, so let me go get some stuff. We want to minimize that, decrease that, and clean out our environment. Okay? All right. The other thing is high percentage plays. What are the things that are going to give me the biggest bang for our buck? Right? So your last quarter and you're down, well, we want to try to get some three-pointers. We want to move the ball down the field. So what are some of those things? Well, we can add a 10 to 15 minute walk after this show, wherever you are, depending on where you are. Right? When it gets some electrolytes. So what I'm doing is, what are those things that are giving me big wins? Right? 10 to 15 minute walk distracts my mind. It gives me energy. It helps my body to continue to process. The electrolytes are keeping me balanced with my electrolytes. And if I'm doing those, I'm also drinking water or drinking fluids. So that's helping me to stay hydrated. A 5-minute breathing activity, or prayer, or reflection. Something that I can do that I know gives me high benefits. So don't wait till I'm needing it. Go ahead and begin doing those. Build them into your routine. Turn the lights out, right? I got to put my hands up. That's my struggle. Protect your sleep. Protect the sleep. And then huddle. Huddle, 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 huddle. You know what huddle is? Huddle is community. Post your final thoughts. What's your plan? Put them in the community. We're here, right? Drop it in the comments here. After the show, go drop them there. Join our community so that you can begin supporting each other and you can get support. We're not hoping to finish. We're running the script that helps us to get to the finish line. We're not this is not a Hail Mary. We've got a plan. And then the last thought is, sometimes we get to this point and we've got a decision tree. And the decision is, do we continue or do we break the fast? And for this, we want to ask 3 questions, right? So we're finishing strong. 3 questions. Number 1, it has to do with safety. Are there any red flags? If there are red flags, then we break the fast safely. That's not failure. If there are red flags, then we stop and we go back and we say, okay, we're going to come at this again. What was it that happened this time that caused the red flag? Number 2 is one of capacity. Do you have enough rest? Did you get enough rest? Are you hydrated enough? Are you having enough electrolytes? If the answer is no, you begin to shore up that or you stop. I'm pausing. It is not failure. We're going to be safe. We're going to make sure we have the right capacity. And then number 3, purpose. What was the fast for? Was it glucose control? Am I trying to improve my inflammation? Is it a mindset thing? If the primary goal is met and your body is saying, hey, we need a break, then listen to your body. Then it's wisdom. It's wise to stop there. So sometimes we say, okay, I'm going to a 72-hour fast. The goal for the 72-hour fast was, hey, I'm trying to get my blood sugars down. I'm trying to lose some weight. And we've achieved that. And the body is saying, hey, I'm starting to feel something. But I said, no, I said I was going to do 72. By God, I'm going to do 72. No, we want to be safe. So if you've met the goal and your body's saying, hey, I need this to take a break, then there is no shame. This is just strategy. Champions know when to take a break. Championships are won by choosing well, not by pushing through blindly. So here's your key takeaway that I want you to get. Discomfort is front-loaded. Transformation is back-loaded. At 56 hours, repair is peaking, clarity is cleaner, and your smartest plays are precision, simple, and repeatable. So they're precise. They're not haphazard. They are surgical. This is where we want to be. If we're going to finish strong, we're going to make sure that we're doing all the things that we need to do to be successful, to be safe. You've entered championship mode. Protect your rhythm. Run your 2-minute drill and finish strong and safe. Because we're living limitless lives. Go live a limitless life. And I'll see you at the final buzzer. And I'll see you when the whistle blows. All right, finishing strong. That is an amazing concept that I want to make sure that we are, as we are moving from our Play Your Own Game series, we're heading to the Blueprint series, right? So finishing strong, Blueprint, we're coming there in that fourth quarter. This is our bridge as we talk about the things that we need to do. How do we do this successfully? How do we do this well? And how do we make sure that this is something we can do over the long haul and not something that we are just doing, for now and then it's done. You remember, that one time when we did that thing that, it was working, but it's not, I'm back to where I was before. No, we don't want that. We want to make sure that we are installing a successful process in our lives. Okay, let's go ahead and let's see, where were we? See some comments. So Cornelia was saying, hey, Steve. Steve says, hello, Cornelia. At Cornelia, hello, from David. Hey, for Steve. Hello, this is Steve Keller. Let's see. So LinkedIn user says, I found LMT to be great for hydration when I fast and while on keto. Okay, 0 sugar, 100 milligrams of sodium. Can grab it at Target or online. Okay, thank you for that. Cornelia says, thank you, Dr. Woode. Hello, David. Yeah. So amazing conversation. So remember that everything we do is based on our triple E formula for success. We educate, we empower, we encourage. The education is from the show, from the blogs, from the podcast that we do. The idea is that we want you to understand what's going on in your body. We want you to think about what we do differently. Now, for a long time, the way we've talked about food, the way we've talked about metabolism, the way we've talked about how our bodies respond to the things we do has been shrouded in almost like mystery. Like there's only certain people who know how that works. No, it's not mystery. And so the idea is our education here on the channel is designed to open that box up so that you get to understand how your body works, specifically how your body works. And how do we design something, a plan that allows us to move in that direction. Remember, we're not just looking for better blood sugars, better A1C, weight going down. We're not just looking for those changes. What we're looking for is how do we stay alive as long as possible, and how do we stay as healthy as possible. That's the goal. These other things we talk about, they are markers along the way. They indicate that we're heading in the right direction. But ultimately, I want to know, how do we keep you alive so you can start wrestling with the grandkids? You can walk your daughter down the aisle. You can see your son get married. You can see your grandchildren graduate from college. You can teach them some of the things that you do, your hobbies. You can pass that down to the next generation. You can start traveling with your wife and your husband or family after you guys have put so much time into working. That's our goal. How do we stay alive as long as possible? And how do we stay as healthy as possible? And then we educate, so we empower with the tools that we're learning. All the things that you see us doing here, the shows when we're talking about these different concepts, the HEAT model, the COPE model, the Balanced Bites, the Limitless Living Health Action Plan, all of those are tools that allow you to put into practice the things that we learn. And then we empower with this amazing community that you are part of. This community, every time you drop a comment, every time you say, hey, this is what's going on with me, every time you ask a question, you are enriching the community. And Limitless Living says that I'm presenting with my best self, my best health, my best plans. I'm not allowing anything to stop me from getting to where I need to be successful. And that also means, because this is a community, when you get benefits, when you're seeing positives in your life, you can't just keep it to yourself. There are over 1 billion people with a B, billion with a B, on the planet right now who have prediabetes and diabetes. You can be a voice for change in your community, in your church, at your doctor's office, in your family. We don't have to keep having these disease processes go on in us. You can be a voice that says that. So share, when you're seeing benefits, share that with somebody else and let them know, hey, we don't have to be like that. We don't have to keep doing it that way. And if you're tired of being on that hamster wheel, if you're tired of being in that space, I want you to go ahead, get to our website, Dwain Woode MD, and click the link there to learn more about our accelerator program. Join us so that we can install this process, this operating system, this default into our bodies, into our minds, into our lives, so that we're heading in the direction of long, healthy life. That's what I want. I want you all, when you drive by the house, see me and my wife sitting in a rocking chair on the stoop, no teeth, but we're just happy, and we're looking at each other, and we are excited to be here. I know that's a crazy visual, right? But I'm always excited to be here with you. I'm always glad that I get a chance to walk along with you, to see the amazing benefits that you're having in your lives, and to see this community grow, and to get all those benefits. We are going to do our fast, our complete fast tomorrow, review of fasting. You get to see here how we get into a fast, how do we get through a fast, how do we break the fast, and you get to see what I eat for my first meal after this fast coming up tomorrow. Make sure you join us for that. On Saturday, we'll have video from the vault. And that's 9 o'clock Central Time right here on the channel. And Sunday morning, we'll have This Week in Review. And on Monday, we'll be right back here as we continue our Play Your Own Game, as we move through the Finishing Strong and into our Blueprint series that's coming up as we get into the new month, and we talk about this Finishing Strong in the next quarter. Join us for our Strength, Strategy, and Mindset. We are on day number 117, I believe, today, of that path. We've gone through the 100 day of the Strength, Strategy, and Mindset. We're in the bridge portion right now as we get ready to launch our next 100 days. All right, so we did 100 day of walking. We did 100 days of Strength, Strategy, and Mindset. And we got 100 days of our next series that's coming up. So make sure you join that. If you've not done that yet, you can go back to the beginning and start on day 1 when we started the fasting. This is designed to give you 365 days of activity in our MOVE campaign. Remember, MOVE, metabolic optimization via exercise. So we don't need you to go invent the wheel. The things that you need, the fasting shows are here. Let's go through. Remember, you guys remember the Limitless Living Health Action Plan? Let me go pull that up. And let's see, where are we? Limitless Living. Here it is. Okay. So walking. So we've got our walking series. Walking. We've got our fasting series that are here. Strength, strategy, and mindset. We've got that going on right now. Balance bites, right? So that's the only one we don't have that yet. Rest and recovery, right? We talk about that. And then mental mastery is the show that we do. And then structure and planning comes into what we're doing here, right? So right now we don't have a balance bites and we don't have a rest and recovery, right? I'm trying to figure out how we do that practically here in the space. But all the other components of the health action plan are there. You get to just plug in, come alongside us. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just show up and follow us along, and you get to walk through that process with us. Hey, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. I'm glad that you're here. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life. Avoid complications, go to the next level. We're creating the life we've always wanted, and we are living limitless lives. So we'll see you as we move through the rest of this week. We'll see you on the shows, and have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday for Dwain Woode MD Live. Good night, everybody.